And talking about all these suits and stuff, man, and Gunpla, let's talk about some artistic style, man. How do you design your Gunpla? How do you how do you sit back and say, you know what? I want to add this many decals. When is enough enough? When is a little for
Mm,
you?
that's a good question. Yeah, for me, I have a certain little look that I like to keep to, which is detailed but not too much. Like so, for example, the decals that are on my kit, I always like them to look as if there's real is purpose there. So I put them usually at edges or corners or sides, right? And they usually have caution, and that kind of stems from me working around like forklifts or any like machinery. I look at kind of the labels that are there, and everything there is for a purpose. Like the caution label there is to let you know, hey, you could pinch your fingers here, or
Yeah,
hey, the caution here is to let you know, hey, this is the end, or hey, there's no step. Like if you're stepping on a wing of an
yeah,
aircraft, there's no step, and the reason why is because that's a flap or aileron. And I like to kind of stick to that idea of if this machine was real, where would these caution lines go? Now, I don't like to overdo it. I don't want it to look like a NASCAR. I think CD calls kits that are over decaled NASCAR
yeah.
mechs where they just look silly. So there's got to be a balance between which ones are larger that you can display and the smaller ones, so you don't have a billion of them going everywhere. But yeah, how I would design it is first take something extraordinary, try to bring it back to a real world, and then try to make it look extraordinary again, but don't go overboard where it looks like it's go back to a fantasy. I that's why one of the reasons why when I look at kits that have like a billion panel lines, I'm sometimes not as turned on by them as I am with
Yeah.
some that have fewer but more strategically or artistically put panel lines.
That goes back. Let me ask you this now: when they talk about panel line, are you particular when it comes to panel lining, like the color? Like for me, I have this, and I've got to pick this up. This is what I use for panel lining. It is the Faber-Castell extra small pit artistic panel line pen. I use it on all colors. It's not going to pick up because of this background, but I use it. It's fine point. I put it on blue, white, red. Are you the type of person you need brown on red, white on gray on white, and then what is that? Black on blue? Or you don't? You just don't care?
No, I do care. I tend to stick to dark gray on white, and I have the jar one from
Yeah.
Tamiya. So dark gray on white, black on every other color, and then regular gray if I want to do like eccentric like vents sometimes, but I don't want them to poke out too much. I would actually just run it across vents like gray and kind of layer it a little bit until I get where I'm at, because dark gray I found out for vents kind of makes it look like there's sometimes too much grime or too much shadow, and I sometimes want the vents to just stay the color they are. But yeah, no, I am a stickler for panel lines, like the white, the suit behind you see me in the picture, like dark gray is the only thing going in those panel lines, and that's not even panel lined yet. Yeah, that's all just from the the model kit itself, and I think it's black is sometimes just a little bit too out there on white.
And I think what the size of the kit.
Yeah,
I say that I think the master grade. If you do black on a master grade, black panel line on a white master grade suit looks cleaner because you have more space to look at than a high grade of the same suit. And when I'm talking about, for an example, Shenlong high grade, I did black at first. I was like, but I look back and look at the panel lining I did on the master grade, and I'm like, well, that was black. But my eyes see more white because there's more white, and that black looks okay. So I think the size matters when it comes to panel lining and what colors you pick too, because you don't use brown on red.
I've never used brown. I have brown. I've never used it. I never really. Once again, I don't paint red all that much. I think I have one red kit I painted, which is the Curios, and all the red parts there don't really have too many panel lines to begin with. But which yeah,
you're Curios. I saw it in the container, not the container, this case the other day. Makes me want to keep mine. I'm like, shh. It might be. I have it up for sale. I'm like,
like it looks good, pretty much built, and and that's the G Reworks decals on it too.
Nah.
So it looks good, but yeah, no, man, I've never really had to use it. Now, also, it depends too on how thick the panel line is, because different thickness of panel lines. Sometimes black will be better, tiny ones, because you can actually see it, and then dark gray would be better in the giant panel lines because it's not too overbearing. But yeah, no, the red, gray, I mean red, brown. I haven't used. Oh, I have used brown though for weathering. As a quick easy weather tool.
Quick either way. That's a great technique too. I think with me, when it comes to decals, and I've said this before, it has to fit. I have to look at it like I can't decal a older looking suit, not necessarily age of the kit, but age of the suit itself. Like we look at the prototype Goof, the Master Grade, the brown one. I go, if I was doing that one, I will only do a few decals on it. Like the RX, classic RX, like the high grade Revive. The Origins one, since it looks updated and modern, I like the decals, a lot of decals on that. Unicorn the same way, but the updated, like an older looking RX or the older looking Zaku 2 with no panel line, the thighs are smooth, is 1 or 2 decals, like 1, 2, 3 decals. That's about it.
Yeah, and I think
a whole lot.
And I think that works best too, especially with the older kits, since they're rounded and there's a lot more surface area. You don't need as many. I mean, I'm sorry, not a lot of detail on very large surface areas.
Yeah.
You don't need as many decals. In my opinion, I think, and I'm right there with you. The Origin, especially the Origin Arc 78, I've seen some kits builds of it where you end up with that NASCAR crazy, insane decal amount, but it actually works.
Yeah, and it's like you don't know why. Maybe it's because that's the first time you've seen that kit. Like the first time you actually looked at it, it was like really good and you liked it. Might have been fully decal like that. Same for me for the Unicorn. Like I've seen some that have like just one singularity and the Unicorn logo, and that would be it. And I'm like, nah. And it's probably because I watched it or I looked at it, someone's build of it, and it had crazy amount of decals. It's like, oh, that's dope. And it stuck with me. And that might be the reason why I like a whole lot of decals on a Unicorn kit.
Right. And let's see if I can if I'm able to bring it up here. There's some kits where you can go NASCAR crazy with your decals, but they're so small, numerous, and kind of, how can I say, technical with what they're placed where they work well. But I mean, there's really not too many how can I say, there's really not too many scenarios or kits out there where it works well, in my opinion. Yeah. So one example I would say for a kit that has a lot of decals but kind of works is something like this, right? You end up with a ridiculous amount of decals here. I mean, this is almost silly, right? I mean, almost everything
clean,
but it looks great, right? It works. Even like and I love decals that fit in the spot where they're supposed to be at. So like one right here, but yeah, it can definitely work. It's just a little bit more difficult, I would say.
And that's just the struggle I have when I'm like, all right, I'm at the end. How much decals is too much decals? You know, I think once I feel like I'm running out of surface area on the shoulder, on the bicep, I'm like, okay, that's it. That's all we're doing. It could get real funky sometimes though, because I'll be sitting up there thinking like I want to just keep going, and I need one on the top of the hand, I need one on the back of the arm, full, like all the way around. So
a question for you then, like, because that to me that like looks toward like our excessive attention to detail, right? For us, when we look at high levels of detail, what's your opinion on the amount of different colors of paint you add in for like one certain color? Because sometimes you'll be building a kit and you look at, there's like different panel lines on this one area, and